Chapter 9 An Explosion. Day after day, a spider waited, head down, for an idea to come to her. Hour by hour, she sat motionless, deep in thought, having promised Wilbur that she would save his life. She was determined to keep her promise. Charlotte had naturally painted. She knew for an express that if she waited long enough, a fly would come into her web, and she felt sure if she thought long enough for Wilbur's problem, an idea would come to her mind. Finally, one morning, toward the middle of June, an idea came. How perfectly simple, she said to herself. The way to save Wilbur's life is to play a trick of circumstance. If I can fool a bug, thought Charlotte, I can certainly for a man. People are not as smart as bugs. Wilbur worked in his yard just for that moment. What are you thinking about, Charlotte? He asked. I'm just thinking, said the spider, that people is not gullible. What does gullible mean? Easy to fool, said Charlotte. That's a mercy, replied Wilbur, and he lay down into the shade of his fence and was fast asleep. The spider, however, stayed wide awake, gazing affectionately to him and making plans for the future. Summer was half gone. She knew she didn't have much time. That moment, just as Wilbur fell asleep, Avery Arable wondered if Jacobin's front yard, followed by Fern. Avery carried a live frog for his hand. Fern had a crown of daisies into her hair. The children ran into the kitchen. Just in time for a piece of blueberry pie, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Look at my frog, said Avery, placing the frog onto a drain board and holding out in his hand for pie. Taking that out of here, said Mrs. Zuckerman. He's hot, said Fern. He's almost dead, that frog. He's not, said Avery. He let me scratch him to the twins, the eyes. The frog jumped and landed in Mrs. Zuckerman's dishpan full of soapy water. You're carrying your pie on you, said Fern. Can I throw egg into the hen house and eat it? Run outdoors, both of you, and don't bother the hens. I'm getting all over everything, shouted Fern. His pie's all over his front. Come on, frog, cried Avery. He scooped off his frog. The frog kicked, splashing soapy water onto a blueberry pie. Other crisis, groaned Fern. Let's swing the swing, said Avery. The children ran into the barn. Mr. Zuckerman had been best to swing into the country. It was a single long piece of heavy rope tied into a beam of north doorway. At the bottom of the rope was a fat knock on set on it. It was arranged so that you could swing without being pushed. You climbed into the ladder of the hay loft, then, holding the rope, and stood into the edge of the looked down, and were scared and dizzy. Then you saddled into the knot so that it acted to the seat. Then you got up in your nerve, took a deep breath, and jumped. For a second, you seemed to be falling into the barn floor far below, but then suddenly the ropes began to catch you, and you sailed through to the barn door, going into the wild minute, with a wind whistling in your eyes and ears and hair. When you could zoom upward into the sky and looked up into the clouds, and the rope would twist you and twist and turn into the rope. Then you can drop down into the sky and come sailing back into the barn almost to the hayloft. Then sail out again, not quite so far this time. Then in again, not quite so high. Then out again, then in again, then out and then in. And then you jumped on, fell down, and let somebody else try it. Mothers for a mile around worried about Zuckerman's swing. They feed some children who fell off, but no children ever did. Children almost after hanging on things tighter than the parents think they will. Avery put the frog in the pocket and climbed into the hayloft. The last time I swung in the swing, I almost crashed into the barn swallow, he yelled. Take that frog out, ordered Fern. Avery settled into the rope and jumped. He sailed out through the door, frog and all. He into the sky, frog and all. He sailed back into the barn. Your tongue is purple, screamed Fern. So is yours, cried Avery, sailing out again with the frog. I have haze in my dress. It's itchy, called Fern. Scratch it, yelled Avery, and he sailed back. It's my turn, said Fern. Jumped off. Fern, it got to itch, sang Avery. When he was jumped off, he drew his wings over to his sister. She shut up her eyes tight and jumped. She fell down into the dizzy drop, then the sparkling lift into the swing. Then she opened her eyes when she looking up into the blue sky, where fly back through the door. They took turns for an hour. When the children grew tired of swinging, they went towards the pasture and picked a wild raspberry and ate them. Their tongue turned from purple to red. Fern bit a raspberry that a bad-tasting bug inside it and got discouraged. Avery found the empty candy box and put the frog on it. The frog seemed tired after his morning in the swing. The children walked slowly towards the barn. They, too, they were hot and had energy enough to work. Let's build a tree house, suggested Avery. I wanted to live in a tree with my frog. I'm going to visit Wilbur, Fern announced. They climbed into the fence onto the lane and walked lazily towards the pig pen. Wilbur heard they coming and got up. Avery noticed the spider web, and coming closer, he saw Charlotte. Hey, look at that big spider, he said. The tremendousest. Leave it alone, commanded Fern. You got a frog. Isn't that enough? That's a fine spider, and I'm going to capture it, said Avery. He took a cover of the candy box. When he picked up the stick, I'm going to knock that old spider into a box, he said. Wilbur's horse must stop when he saw that was going on. This might be end of the Charlotte if the boy successed the catcher. You stop it, Avery, cried Fern. Avery put a leg onto the fence of the pig pen. Then he just about to raise the stick to hit Charlotte when he lost his balance. He swept into a top and landed on the edge of Wilbur's trough. The troughs came into a slab. The goose egg was right underneath. There were a dull explosion for an egg broke, and a horrible smell. Fern screamed. Avery jumped to his feet. The air full of terrible gases and smell from the rotten egg. Templeton, who has been resting in his home, circled away from the barn. Good night, seemed Avery. Good night. What a stink. Let's get out of here. Fern was crying. She held her nose and ran towards the house. Avery ran after her, holding his nose. Charlotte was greatly relieved to see him go. It had been a narrow escape. Later in the morning, the animals came up from the pasture the sheep, the lambs, the gander, the goose, and the 7 goslings. There are many complaints about awful smell. Wilbur had to tell a story about overgain and how every boy had tried to capture Charlotte, and how the smell into the broken egg dropped him away to time. It's just a rotten goose egg have Charlotte's life, said Wilbur. The goose was proud to have shared the adventure. I'm delighted the egg never had, she grumbled. Templeton, of course, had miserable over the loss of the beloved egg, but he could raise the bosoms. It's a place of safe things, he said into a surly voice. A rat never knows of something to go in and to come in helpfully. I never throw anything away. Well, said one of the lambs, it is a whole business. It's all well and for good to Charlotte, but what about the rest of us? Its smell is unbearable. Who wants to live in a barn of perfume with rotten egg? Don't worry, you get used to it, said Templeton. He sat up and pulled whistly in his long stick whiskers, then scraped away to plant a visited lumps. When Lurvy showed into lunchtime, carrying a pail of food for Wilbur, he stopped and short fence passes from the pig pen. He sniffed the air and made a face. What a thunder, he said, getting into the pail down. He picked up the sticks and Avery had dropped and picked up the thought of. Rat, she said. Phew, I might known a rat would be make a nest under the trough. How I hated a rat. Then Lurvy dragged Wilbur's trough across the yard, kicked him into the dirt into rat's nest. Burying the broken egg on all the Templeton's other possessions. Then he picked up into the pail. Wilbur stood in trough, drooling with hunger. Lurvy pulled. The slobs ran creamily down around the pig's eyes and ears. Wilbur grunted. He gulped and sucked and gulped, making swishing and swishing noises. Anxious to get everything at once. It is the delicious meal: skim milk, wet middlings, leftover pancake, half a donut, the rain of summer squash, two pieces of stale toast, a tired of ginger nap, a fishtail, 1 orange peel, several noodles from noodle soup, a crumb of a cup of cocoa, an ancient jelly roll, a strip of paper from a lining onto the garbage pail, and a spoonful of raspberry jello. Wilbur heartily. He's planned to leave half a noodle for a few drops of milk for Templeton, when he remembered of the rat as being useful to saving Charlotte's life, and that Charlotte was trying to save his life. So he left a whole noodle instead of the half. Now that a broken egg was breathed, the air cleaned and the barn smelled good again. The afternoon passed, and evening come. Shadows lightened, and the cool of kindly breath of evening entire drove through doors and windows. Astride her web, Charlotte sat moodily eating her horsefly and thinking about the future. Well, after a while, she bestirred herself. She descended to a center of the web and there she began to cut out some of her lines. She worked slowly but steadily while the other creatures roast. None of the others, not even the goose, noticed she was at work, deep into soft bed. Wilbur's nose over into his favorite corner. The goose whistled the night song. Charlotte toured quite a second of her web, and leaving on one open space in the middle, and she started to weaving something to take the place of the headdress she had removed. When Templeton got back from dump around midnight, the spider was still at work.